There is a mass awakening happening on the planet right now. Many of us can see this, and it is an incredible time for soul expansion. But a lot of people are stuck. And what does exactly awakening mean? And there's a lot of issues that people fall into when they start their awakening process, and then there's another trap that keeps them stuck. So stick around, I'm gonna talk about that later in this video. But first of all, let's talk about the awakening process. What does it mean to awaken? Well, our consciousness has been set at a certain bar level for many, many, many lifetimes, hundreds of lifetimes for most of us. And going back to the Atlantis times, which we're talking, the fall of Atlantis was roughly 16,000 years ago. But Atlantis carried on long before that, okay, with incredible knowledge and expansion in knowledge over that time. So our ascension goes in cycles. There's roughly a 26,000 period where we're in ascension and then descension and back into ascension. The ascension is being caused by the amount of photonic light coming into the planet. And astrology-wise, it is like everything is lining up for us to have the ability to really expand and grow our consciousness. What makes us awaken? Well, usually it's some chaos in our life. It's something really tragic that happens to us. Or, for example, Melissa and I, we were really let down by the medical system. We were really, really sick, and that system just made it worse. So that was the awakening process, was like, wow, okay, if they're not there to help us and they don't have our back, then we have to start to take our sovereignty back. And that's what awakening is about. It's realizing that we've been deeply, deeply programmed to give away our sovereignty to all these aspects in our lives, to the government, to the doctors, to all these educational institutions, and they know what's best for us, okay? This is a deep program that has kept us in this false matrix. Matrix is a reality, and it's a false inverted matrix that has held humanity for a very long time. So we're awakening out of that. We're starting to see that, yes, we've been deeply programmed. These systems continue to deeply program us, and this is everything down to the music that we listen to. This is Netflix, this is Apple TV, you name it. It's all doing the same thing, and it's just subtle. They're masters at doing this. So we start to be aware that we're deeply programmed. That's the start of our awakening process. But then what I see is so many people get stuck in these rabbit holes and this kind of doomsday stuff. And the algorithms, they're very intelligent. What they're designed to do is keep you on that platform as long as possible. So when you start watching stuff on Illuminati, the cabal, what they're doing and how they're doing it, the algorithms just going to continue to give you more and more and more of this. And a lot of people here get stuck in those rabbit holes and in fear. That is an issue because then you're still in the false matrix. If you're running on a frequency of fear, fear is one of the lowest frequencies we can hold. So we're still stuck in that. And Melissa and I had our awakening in 2007 when that was our first initial point of awakening. There's many layers again to this awakening, right? You start doing that deep inner work, working on the trauma, working on the shadow work. That's when you start to really expedite your ascension process and come out of these deep layers of almost a psychosis that we're in that false matrix, completely with binders on and can't see out of them, deeply, deeply controlled. So when people start to wake up, they get into the doom scrolling. I see this a lot, start to call other people like sheep, NPCs, and they're still stuck in the victimness consciousness and the separation consciousness. So when you're stuck in that type of consciousness, you're still in the duality, and the duality is still keeping you tethered into that 3D false matrix. So they might think that they're awakened and enlightened, but when it comes down to their frequency and what they're holding, they're still completely entrenched, entangled in the duality of 3D. So that's where it's really important. Can you witness this? When you're scrolling and you're seeing videos, are you judging people that don't have the same belief systems as you? This is a huge red light for you. You're still stuck in the duality. Then there's just showing you there's more work to do. Because the more that we work on our own limiting beliefs, our inner child healing, our shadow work. I've been going deep into the gene keys, looking at my profile and going deep into the shadow aspects of my life's purpose. my activation sequence, right? Really gone deep into that, and then into the Venus sequence, which is opening up the heart chakra. So when you go deep into these sequences and you do the shadow work and you really contemplate on each one of these gene keys that you may hold, you really start to open up the heart. And when we start to come into that opening of the heart, what we start to feel is that separation consciousness starts to dissolve, and we start to feel a unity consciousness, right? Christ consciousness. This is what Jesus came here to teach us, was to see that we were all unified in the same field. And then when we start to see that and feel that, truly, it's a feeling, then you start to bring your timeline up. You start to really expand your perception of the world. Because one of the greatest Hermetic principles, Hermes Trismegistus, which was an amazing philosopher. He was also in Atlantis, that was his time, but he was also Thoth in the Egyptian times, and Merlin in England. And one of his greatest quotes was, "As within, so without." And it's a really deep Hermetic principle that if you're seeing chaos in the world and it seems really crazy and chaotic, then that is an internal reflection. Inside of you, there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of fear still, because you haven't worked through the shadow aspects of ourselves they're in the shadows. That's why we call it a shadow aspect. You can't consciously see it. It's not there. But depending on, what kind of work you're doing, if it's the gene keys, or even if you're in a sacred partnership like me and Melissa, we mirror to each other our shadows. So when you have a sacred partnership, they are going to show you exactly where your shadows are. And that is beautiful, but it's also very challenging. A lot of us are being called to find these sacred partnerships right now, because that's where the true growth is. And to be honest, these sacred partnerships, the twin flame relationships, are the relationships that are going to change the world. They're going to really bring in the new earth timelines. So it's a really, really exciting time to see all of this coming to fruition right now. It's such a beautiful time, but challenging definitely if you're stuck in the fear, because there really is two timelines. The fear timeline is really loud right now. Those people are screaming from the rooftops about what's going on and how they need to fight the system and all that stuff, okay? So that 3D fear timeline is very loud. The 5D timeline is very quiet. It's a frequency of compassion. It's a frequency of unity. It's a frequency of love. People that have done this work are not freaking out. They know that big change is coming, and they know that that change can only come through within ourselves. Okay? Gandhi again, right? Incredible yogi. Be the change you want to see in the world. What a powerful, powerful statement. These yogis, they understand this, that our inner world reflects our external world, because our thoughts and our emotions and our actions dictate our hologram. We are an avatar. We're living in this holographic world. It's a simulation, and only a small aspect of your soul is here right now doing this. You're a multi-dimensional being, right? So there's aspects of you that are in 3D, 5D, 12D, okay? So when I get my head around that, it's so comforting to know that there's so many other aspects of myself also that are growing, expanding, evolving, but I'm also here right now at this incredible moment where the earth is changing so quickly. Everything is evolving, and it is such an incredible, beautiful time to be alive. But we have to do the inner work to get out of the fear. So I hope that gives you a better understanding really about this awakening process and how there's different levels to it and what you can do to really start to evolve out of the fear mentality when we first awaken. Every single one of us light workers who has the courage to do this deep inner work is going to help shift that collective timeline quicker and quicker. Every light worker that heals themselves, they're going to ripple out a vibrational wave that will travel hundreds of kilometers and help the other people in those areas. I want to hear from you guys in the comments. How are you feeling through this process? Are you in fear? Do you need help getting out of that? Or do you know how to break free through this shadow work? I'm sending you guys so much love.